On December 4, 2024, the bustling streets of Midtown Manhattan were shaken by a shocking event: the assassination of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Midtown Manhattan, always alive with the hum of business and daily commuters, became the epicenter of a chilling crime that would dominate headlines for weeks. Brian Thompson, one of the most influential figures in the healthcare sector, was gunned down in broad daylight. The incident sent ripples of fear and shock through the business community and beyond. Thompson was not only the CEO of UnitedHealthcare but also a symbol of power and influence in an industry often criticized for its practices. Known for his role in expanding insurance coverage and negotiating deals to reduce prescription drug prices, he was both celebrated and criticized. Thompson's contributions to reforming insurance policies earned him respect among his peers, but his leadership also drew criticism. Industry watchdogs frequently questioned the ethics behind some of UnitedHealthcare's practices, including rising premiums and denied claims. For many Americans struggling with healthcare costs, Thompson embodied both progress and the systemic flaws of the industry. Despite the criticism, Thompson was seen as a forward thinker. Under his leadership, UnitedHealthcare had launched initiatives to integrate AI and telemedicine, expanding access to care for underserved communities. His sudden and violent death left a void in the industry, raising questions about the motives behind the attack. On that fateful day, Thompson was attending an investor conference at the Midtown Hilton Hotel, a routine part of his demanding schedule. The event, attended by key stakeholders in the healthcare industry, was meant to showcase UnitedHealthcare's latest advancements. But just as Thompson stepped outside for a brief break, a lone gunman approached him, firing a single, fatal shot at close range. Witnesses described the scene as chaotic, with bystanders fleeing in panic and emergency services arriving moments later. The gunman fled the scene swiftly, leaving behind a city in shock and authorities with limited leads. Investigators were faced with one burning question: who would target one of the most powerful figures in the healthcare industry? As investigators pieced together the events, surveillance footage and eyewitness accounts led them to a surprising suspect: 26-year-old Luigi Mangione. Mangione's name and face quickly became the focus of news reports. A former Ivy League student with a promising future in economics, Mangione had seemingly vanished from public life 6 months before the incident. Friends and colleagues described him as intelligent but deeply troubled in his final months on campus. Authorities tracked Mangione to a modest apartment in Altoona, Pennsylvania, where he was arrested 5 days after the shooting. Inside his apartment, they discovered a 3D printed firearm, ammunition, and a falsified New Jersey driver's license, alongside documents that would further complicate the case. The most chilling discovery was a handwritten manifesto found among Mangione's belongings. In it, Mangione described his disillusionment with the American healthcare system, calling it a predatory machine and its executives parasites. Passages from the manifesto detailed his personal struggles, including chronic back pain, mounting medical debt, and a deep sense of betrayal by a system he once believed in. "They profit from our pain," he wrote, "while the rest of us are left to suffer." These words painted a picture of a man consumed by anger and despair, but they also raised broader questions about the systemic pressures facing millions of Americans. Experts have noted that while Mangione's actions were extreme, his frustrations mirror those of countless individuals struggling with rising healthcare costs and limited access to care. Mangione now faces a series of charges, including first-degree murder in furtherance of terrorism and second-degree murder as a crime of terrorism. The decision to frame the case as an act of terrorism reflects the broader implications of targeting a high-profile public figure. The district attorney, Alvin Bragg, held a press conference shortly after the charges were announced, emphasizing the calculated nature of the crime. "This was not a random act of violence," Bragg stated. "This was a deliberate attempt to intimidate and coerce, aimed at one of the pillars of our healthcare system." The public response to Mangione's arrest has been deeply polarizing. For some, he is a symbol of frustration and desperation in the face of an unforgiving healthcare system. Outside the courthouse, protesters gathered with signs reading "Healthcare Reform Now and Justice for Patients." "I don't condone what he did," one protester said, "but I understand his pain. The system is broken, and it's killing us just in slower ways." However, critics argue that any sympathy for Mangione is misplaced. Counter-protesters have called his actions an act of domestic terrorism, pointing out the dangers of glorifying violence, regardless of motive. Karen Friedman Agnifilo, Mangione's defense attorney, is determined to ensure her client receives a fair trial despite the intense media coverage and public scrutiny. Friedman Agnifilo has been vocal about her concerns, particularly regarding the highly publicized perp walk orchestrated during Mangione's extradition to New York. "This was a spectacle," she said in a recent interview. "It undermines a presumption of innocence and jeopardizes the integrity of the judicial process." The defense is expected to argue that Mangione's actions were influenced by mental health struggles, compounded by systemic pressures. This argument sets the stage for a highly contentious trial that will likely draw national attention. The case of Luigi Mangione has sparked a broader conversation about the state of healthcare in America and the mental health crisis facing the nation. Experts warn that while this case is an outlier, it reflects a growing undercurrent of frustration and anger within society. Healthcare analysts point to rising costs, denied claims, and the lack of transparency as factors driving public discontent. Meanwhile, mental health professionals emphasize the need for better resources and support for individuals dealing with extreme stress and hardship. As the trial approaches, the nation watches closely. The outcome will not only determine Mangione's fate but may also influence the broader debate on healthcare, justice, and the limits of protest in America. Luigi Mangione's story serves as a stark reminder of the complex interplay between individual grievances and systemic challenges. The trial is scheduled to begin in the coming months, and its proceedings are expected to capture the nation's attention.